Hello chess lovers, Suren here, and I have another mega aggressive attacking game for you played by Viswanathan Anand against Peter Svidler. The game was played in 1999 in Linares. This game is actually a very complex one, and I will try to keep the analysis simple and won't delve too deep into the variations. Anand had white pieces and he started with d4, knight f6 by Svidler, c4, g6, knight c3 and d5. Svidler goes for Gruenfeld defense, an opening which gained popularity after Ernst Gruenfeld in 1922 defeated future world champion Alexander Alekhin. Knight f3, bishop g7 and queen b3. Anand is choosing the Russian system in which white expands time with his queen in order to build up a strong center. But black has a leading development to compensate. In bringing more pressure to bear against black's central outpost on d5, white practically forces d takes c4, thus gaining a central preponderance. This system usually leads to sharp variations, and this game is not an exception. D takes c4 was played, queen takes c4, black castles kingside, e4 and a6. Svidler repeats the so-called Hungarian system, which he had played against Kasparov a month or so before this game. This is a system which Peter Leko was also successfully using. e5, b5, queen b3, knight d7, and here we go h4. Anand is playing very aggressively. He wants to open up the h file and try to target black king. c5. In return, black is expanding on the queen side. e6, c4, queen d1, knight b6. Of course, capturing on e6 is not a good idea because this is creating too many weaknesses in black's camp and also is later blocking the bishop's diagonal. That's why knight b6 was played. E takes f7 check, rook takes f7, and here we go h5. Knight c6, h takes g6, h takes g6. Anand managed to open up the h file, and now let's see how is he going to use that fact. Bishop e3, white is protecting the pawn on d4 square. Still, this is all theory. Here the main move is bishop g4, but Svidler played bishop f5. He had something else in his mind. Knight g5. Well, instead of this calm bishop e2 move, Anand is choosing this aggressive knight g5. Right now white is both attacking black rook and is also intending to play g4 and then bring the bishop on the long diagonal. Rook f6. Well, instead of playing rook f6, it was better to capture on d4 and go for an exchange sacrifice. After bishop takes d4, knight takes f7, king takes f7, rook h7, check bishop g7. Black has a sufficient compensation and engines evaluate the position as equal. Instead, after knight g5, we see rook f6. Now comes g4, bishop e6, knight e4. White pieces are getting more and more active. Bishop d5, queen d2. Well, instead of playing queen d2, if you capture on f6, black can recapture. Right now both pieces are hanging. If knight f3, then knight a4. This knight is coming to attack white pawn. You can't move away your queen because the knight is hanging and black has too much compensation. That's why after bishop d5 we see queen d2, rook d6. Well, instead of playing rook d6, queen d7 is better, a move which Svidler suggested after the game. The idea is that black can now meet f3 with rook takes f3. For example, if f3, then rook takes f3, and if knight takes f3, then bishop takes e4. Again, black has a sufficient compensation, but after queen d2 we see this strange looking rook d6 move. f3, white is blocking the bishop's diagonal and already wants to grab the rook on d6 square. Bishop takes e4, f takes e4, knight d7 and queen h2. This queen is also coming and all this looks very dangerous. Knight f8, black is covering the h7 square. Now comes e5, rook d7, and knight e6, a powerful deflective move. He wants to lure away the knight and play queen h7 check. For example, if knight takes e6, then queen h7 check followed by bishop g2, both attacking the knight. Also this rook is coming. This is simply crushing. That's why after knight e6, Svidler responded with queen a5 check, bishop d2, and knight takes e5. Svidler is sharpening the game in hope of forcing Anand make a mistake. Bishop e2, of course, capturing on e5 can be very dangerous because black can easily equalize the game. That's why after knight takes e5 we see bishop e2, although bishop g2 is stronger. By playing bishop e2 and bishop g2, white is covering the f3 square and is not allowing knight f3 fork, but actually this bishop g2 is stronger because it also attacks the rook on a8. Instead, after knight takes e5 we see bishop e2, c3, bishop takes c3, b4, and knight takes g7. Anand is removing another defender, b takes c3, well if king takes g7 then queen h8 check. Again, this is going to be crushing, white can easily win the game. You can't recapture because you will get checkmated. That's why after knight takes g7 we see b takes c3, but again we see queen h8 check, king f7, and the final and most beautiful move in this game. In this position, Viswanathan Anand castled Kingside and Svidler resigned. A very beautiful final move, I think. The reason why Svidler continued so long is that he wanted to play a game where white wins with castling. Now if knight f3 check, then simply rook takes f3, white is simply picking up all black pieces. Looks like that black king will soon get checkmated. That's why after this devastating castling Kingside, Svidler resigned. A very beautiful finish, I think. Though the game was a very complex one, there were a lot of lines which I didn't cover, but I hope that you enjoyed this mind-blowing attack by the Tiger of Madras. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to leave your comments, and for more games don't forget to subscribe to my channel.